Welcome to NewsNation's Backscroll, where we look back at our major news coverage on the most important topics and personalities of our time.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Marni Hughes, and this is Missing on NewsNation. Each week, we focus on a missing persons case that doesn't get a lot of attention. We believe every missing person matters, regardless of their race, religion, background, or circumstances. And by taking an interest in these stories that we are covering and sharing them with your social network, our hope is that we together can solve some of these cases, bring people home, and offer hope and answers to the family and friends of the missing. This week's featured case will take us to Florida and the critical new development in the search for Jacob Olivier. In a moment, we're going to take a closer look at Jacob's disappearance, and his mom, Lori, and her husband, Todd, will be joining us to talk about where things stand now in that investigation. Before we get to that, though, I have several other updates on missing cases that we continue to follow. Recently, we told you the mother of Madalena Kojakari pleaded guilty for failing to report Madalena missing. Now, a year and a half after Madalena vanished, a jury in North Carolina has found her stepfather guilty of failing to report her disappearance as well. Christopher Palmeter is now convicted of a felony charge of failing to report Madalena missing. He was sentenced to 30 months supervised probation. Madalena's mom, Diana Kojakari, will likely be deported to Moldova, where she is originally from. As for Madalena, she was 11 years old when she was last seen getting off of a school bus in Cornelius, North Carolina. She would be 13 years old now. Some of her family have said they believe that she was sold to child traffickers. Cornelius police have vowed not to give up in the search for Madalena, and we won't give up either. If you have any information that can help in her case, you can reach out to them directly at 704-892-7773. Again, Cornelius Police in North Carolina. Carrie Rawson is the daughter of Dennis Rader, otherwise known as the BTK killer, and she says there is mounting evidence her father is behind the disappearance of a missing 16-year-old girl from Oklahoma. Her name is Cynthia Cindy Dawn Kenny. The Osage County Sheriff's Office has a working theory that Rader was involved with Kenny's kidnapping and has been investigating him as a suspect for years. A year ago, Rawson started helping the investigators working through all this evidence, and she told my NewsNation colleague Brian Enton that what is most important to her right now is finding Cindy.
I stepped in June of 23. I volunteered my time and effort and my services to Osage County. And I've now flown in there about 9 times, about a week at a time. And I work hand in hand with law enforcement. I'm working through all my dad's evidence, and I've gone in to see my dad in prison 5 times.
Do you think, based on what you know, that he's involved in Cynthia's death?
Right now, we're still under investigation. So it's like circumstantial, really, but there's like mounting evidence. But you know, what we really need to do is we need to find Cindy. And so there's been a lot of effort in trying to locate where she maybe is, no matter what happened to her. And there's a lot of effort in her case. And then there's quite a few other cases that are potentially being looked at in like the Midwest and Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. So it's just an ongoing investigation.
Dennis Rader was convicted in 2005 in the deaths of 10 people from 1974 to 1991. He gave himself the BTK nickname, which stands for bind, torture, kill. Authorities still believe there are multiple missing person cases that are connected to him. This week marks 13 years since Lauren Spierer vanished after a night out with friends at Indiana University in Bloomington. She was a sophomore studying fashion at the time of her disappearance. It was June 3rd, 2011, that Spierer was hanging out drinking with friends before leaving Kilroy's Sports Bar without her phone or her shoes that night. In a new book called College Girl Missing, the true story of how a young woman disappeared in plain sight, author and investigative journalist Sean Cohen reveals some bombshells about the last people to see Lauren alive and what may have happened that night. Cohen spoke to my colleague Ashley Banfield about the case.
all these years later to take a fresh look at everything that was gathered by the private investigators and read it all together and contrast the statements, see how certain persons of interest, their statements evolved. You see a bigger picture of that night, and it's important to tell that story. And so I revisited key players, and for the first time, they decided to open up and share what actually happened. They were very closed off in the early days, and eventually I worked my way back to the last people to see her alive, and confronted them.
Corey Rossman is one of the people Cohen has tried to talk to. He was one of the last people with Lauren that night, and as some point out, he was on a phone call as Lauren was intoxicated and slumped over nearby. Cohen wants to know who was on that call, and can they help put together another piece of this puzzle. Lauren's family has set up a website hoping for answers in her case. You can learn more about it and submit information at findlauren.com. Now to this week's featured missing case and a critical new link in the disappearance of a young father in South Florida. Jacob Olivier's truck was found in the Everglades National Park in the summer of 2011. And now a NewsNation investigation has discovered his disappearance follows that of another man with strong family ties who went missing on a camping trip months earlier. Both of these cases getting very little media attention until now. Everglades National Park. 1 million visitors boat, camp, and come face to face.
Oh my.
With its fiercest residents each year.
You're in the road.
And I found out from a news reporter that called me and said, "Are you aware your son is missing in the Everglades?"
Lori Durham says her son, Jacob Olivier, has no ties to the 1.5 million acre park or any of the 3 South Florida counties it straddles. But the Louisiana native's truck was found there in August of 2011. Rangers started searching after noting it'd been abandoned for days.
First, I'm told there's a video of the truck going in. Then I'm told later the video never existed.
National Park Service notes indicate the 1998 Isuzu pickup was parked near Pine Glades Lake. Jacob's mom says he left Spring, Texas in that truck, where he'd gone to rehab and been living with his dad and stepmom. He stopped in an area he once called home outside Savannah, Georgia, hoping to rekindle a romantic relationship. With that ex-girlfriend dating someone new, Jacob took off. A receipt from a hotel in Daytona Beach found in his truck in the Everglades.
We have no connections in the Everglades. We don't have any family in Florida.
Courtney Yeager is Jacob's sister. She recalls he would run off from what she says was a rough childhood.
When my mom told me he was missing, I said, he probably just ran away. Like, I was in denial. I said, he's gonna come back. I was in shock.
Shock shook the same park just 5 months earlier. 67-year-old Roger Sawyer and his extended family stopped their motorhome in March 2011 in the Flamingo district of the park on the way to the Florida Keys. Unaffected by dementia, they say the group split up for 20 minutes to stretch their legs and hike a bit. Sawyer never returned. After a week of intense ground and air searches, the hunt for the retired grocer called off.
This one here is the 3 boys.
Lori Durham looks back lovingly at memories of her middle son.
And Jacob, they win baseball.
The happy pictures of childhood in sharp contrast to the pain she endures, knowing that scores of searches using canines and helicopters to look for Jacob for a week, finding no trace.
That I'm still here, and I'm gonna keep looking to the last breath I have in me. I'm not giving up. I will never give up until I'm cremated. I'm never giving up.
Never giving up. We reached out to the Everglades National Park's law enforcement team for information on both Jacob and Roger Sawyer's cases. The chief of communications tells us they are urging people to come forward with pertinent information on both of the cases and that they are still open. Our public records request, however, was denied. Jacob Olivier would be 36 years old today, Roger Sawyer 81 years old. And joining me now to talk more about this ongoing investigation in the case is Lori Durham, and also her husband Todd is with us. Thanks to you both for your time, and I know this is a great time of heartbreak for you. Lori, let me start with you. The last time you saw your son was when, and what do you remember about the last time you spoke?
Last time I saw him, it was in 2010 when he left our home and went to go back to Texas to his father.
And tell me about that last interaction, that last conversation, as you recall it.
It was peaceful. He just said he wanted to go back to Texas, and he left, and everything was fine. And I found out he went back to go to rehab. And I knew he had a small drug.
Yeah, sorry, we've got a little bit of a delay. How was he doing dealing with addiction and some of the challenges in his life?
He didn't have a bad addiction at all. He smoked a little bit of weed, and that was about it. I don't know how bad his addiction was prior than him come and live with me. He went to his dad's when he was 10 years old, and I didn't have contact with him, but not by my choice. And he came back and lived with me when he was 17.
What do you think, Lori, he was doing in Florida? We heard in the piece that he had no connections there. What's your theory?
I really don't know if he himself was in Florida. He had gone to outside of Savannah to find his ex-girlfriend, and he found out she had someone else. And he was, from that time in Georgia until the time his truck was found, that's a 2-week period. No one knows where he was. He could have been anywhere. He may not have been in Florida. His truck was found in Florida. The ex-girlfriend reached out to me after he went missing, and she was the last person, by her own words, that she saw him last alive. And
what about the truck, Lori? I mean, the truck was found, and whether or not he was there or not, we don't know. But what was inside the truck? Was there any evidence that helps piece together this puzzle for you?
What I was told by the Everglades, he had an empty gun holster. His computer was missing, and there were pill bottles. They never would tell me if they were empty or full, that there were pill bottles. And that was it. And the Daytona receipt for a hotel never told me if his name was on it or if they even checked it out. That was for the day before he went through the park on the 24th.
How about people in his life? As you look back at that time around 2011, was he suspicious or scared of anybody? Was he having any interactions that he shared with you all that concerned him?
Not to my knowledge. He knew that he had a child, and but he didn't get to see his child.
Your daughter thinks that there was some sort of foul play. We have a clip of an interview that we did with her. Let's play that for folks at home.
I have this weird theory in my head that he was involved with the wrong people, and part of me feels like he was in danger.
Would you like to add to that, Lori? I mean, do you share some of that concern?
There were times that he did hang around with the wrong people. I agree with that. But, and something very well could have happened. He crossed paths with the wrong person. But I know deep in my heart, he did not commit suicide like the Everglades wanted us to believe.
What communication have you had with those investigating your son's disappearance, if any, in the last decade?
Oh, at first I was keeping notes of the conversations, and then I was finding out that every time I turned around, I was getting the runaround lies,
and I ceased the phone calls with them, and I did everything by email or text. I would not pick up the phone to speak to them. I had a paper trail of everything that they said. So there would be no miscommunications, and I still got the runaround from them.
As time has passed, has communication dwindled? Are you getting any updates now?
No, absolutely not. I was told I had a private investigator on the case, and they couldn't even get in touch with the Everglades to be helpful at all. And all they would tell me is it's an open case.
It's a cold case.
It's a cold, open case.
Yeah.
They won't do anything. I sent out at the very couple of years after the case was, after he went missing, the FOIA report, and that was a slap in the face. I was told that it would take a few months for them to get me the report, and that it was 4.5 inches thick. So I'm expecting the report. I get it. It was like 10 pages long, if that. And I got the report. They spent, they bought the team Subway sandwiches. They bought the team pizza. They had bought bug spray, and it was a joke. And the weather report of when my son was missing. That's what they called his investigation report.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
It sounds like such a complex investigation and so many unanswered questions there early on. And after time goes by, yeah, you end up in the cold case scenario, which is where I know you don't want to be. Todd, I know you're there supporting Lori. How has Jacob's disappearance all these years and a lack of answers impacted your entire family?
It's been rough. I tell you what, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I mean, I watch her go through this day in and day out. Every year at the same time, it's just a rough scenario. You can see it really get to her real bad every year. We just keep pushing forward and trying to find out what's going on. And I stand with her. We keep trying to find out what's going on. And we just keep hitting roadblocks, but we're not going to stop.
How did the disappearance of Roy impact the search for Jacob, if at all? Have you been in touch with Roy's family since he disappeared within a close time frame of Jacob's disappearance?
I'm sorry, come again?
The other man, Roy, who was found in the Florida Everglades, is that a case that you all had heard about and were aware of, that he had also gone missing in a similar location as Jacob?
Well, that Sawyer case, I only found out about that one after Jake went missing. And I was researching. I tried to find a way to contact that family, and I had no luck. But I felt sorry for that family as well. My heart went out to them. But I didn't know he even really knew anything about the Everglades until Jake went missing. I didn't even know much about it at all.
Have you all been out there yourselves to poke around and look and search?
I have. We haven't yet together. I haven't been there in years. I didn't get the opportunity to go when Jake went missing. I wasn't notified by his father. I got the call from a news reporter asking me if I had a comment on my son being missing. And by that time, the search was already over. It was done by the time I found out. And less than about a week later, after Jake was missing, the search was over, I read in the news reporter had put out there that his father had hired a tow truck from Texas or in Florida and had his truck towed off back to Texas. Why was the truck released so quickly?
Has Jake's father been questioned by authorities, and what has he shared about the ongoing search?
I know nothing, but I know that he doesn't want to speak to anyone. They're not even talking to me about it. he had some nasty comments to me whenever I finally did talk to him. I called him and asked him why he didn't tell me about Jake being missing. And he said that it wasn't my business.
And by the time you learn about it, you're playing catch up. What did it mean to your son, Lori, to be a dad?
He was actually, with me whenever the mother was pregnant. The three of us went to all the doctor's appointments, and Jake and the mother broke up 1 month before my grandson was being born, and she took off to another state. So he wasn't there for the arrival of the baby. And we were going to be there for my grandson. And then she left, and then my grandson was 1.5 years when Jake went missing. So he knew he had a son and the child's name, and but he never got to see his son.
Never got to see him. What do you want people, Lori, to know about Jacob, who he was, and what you miss most about him?
I miss that boy so much every single day. And I'd give anything to just have more time with him, because he was a little mischief. Like every kid, they get in trouble, but you never give up your love on your child. And I know he would have been a great dad to his son. He wanted that child so bad.
And to you both, Lori and Todd, what would be your message to anyone watching who sees Jacob's face, who knows something about what happened in 2011 and can offer some insight and some answers to you and your family? What would you want them to know right now in your nightmare?
Just please, if anyone has seen him or remember the truck, anything, even if it wasn't the Everglades, wherever he might have gone in that 2 weeks, anything, anywhere, just come forward. Just please.
Get the information to the Florida Everglades Police Department, the Florida State Police,
your local
NewsNation, anything.
To you guys, your local police, anybody, anywhere, just let us know something.
And if people can let us know at newsnationnow.com/missing. We'll make sure we get any information to authorities as well. Finally, Lori, you don't think that Jacob was in the Florida Everglades where his truck was found. Where was the last place he was seen before he was missing?
The last place, from what I was told, that was Guyton, Georgia, outside of Savannah. Okay. And she said that he was looking for me and his little brother and sister that was August 11th and 12th of 11. I wasn't home. I had a doctor's appointment. He knew where the house was, and he never came by. She said he left on the 12th and was heading to Augusta, Georgia. Now, whether he went there or where he went is the question in those 2 weeks. But then they found doesn't mean he did, but there was a receipt for Daytona for a hotel. Now, on the other hand, I've told the Everglades this too. When I went from Georgia to the Everglades, I had to go through some toll booths. Now, I told them, check out the toll booths, see if his vehicle had gone through there, check his phone records. I gave them so many options, things to look for, and all they tell me, oh, we can't give you that information. They wouldn't tell me if they checked it out. There were so many things. I said, check these things out. The ex-girlfriend said he had a laptop with him. They couldn't find his laptop in his truck. Check the pawn shops if he sold it. Check the pawn shops for his gun. All of these things. And they left me in the dark. I don't know if they checked all these things out.
Yeah, well, you're playing the role of mom who wants answers and detective looking through all of the evidence, and you're asking the right questions. Lori and Todd, thank you for joining us and sharing more about Jacob, and I think pinpointing those last locations will be critical in getting you all some answers. So thank you once again. We'll be in touch. And again, if you have any information into Jacob's disappearance, you can contact us at newsnationnow.com/missing. You can do that in our submit a tips. And you can also contact police investigating Jacob's case, 305-242-7740. To both of you, thanks again. All right, our NewsNation team was at CrimeCon this year. It's an annual event. It brings together a lot of people interested in cases like this: true crime, podcasters, investigative journalists, law enforcement, and lawyers. I had an opportunity to meet a lot of people as we were there this weekend. There's Ashley Banfield and Brian Enton. They hosted a panel on the Oklahoma moms' murders. This is me at the Missing Wall, which was a great opportunity to see some of the cases that we have covered before and cases that we will cover here on NewsNation. I also met the parents of Jason Landry. This is one of the stories that we've had here in our Missing series. Jason vanished in December of 2021 on his way home from college. It was Christmas break. His disappearance remains a mystery, but his mom tells me she believes Jason is no longer with us, and she knows that she will see him someday in heaven. That Missing Wall was incredible. Jason's image was up there. A lot of unsolved mysteries and remembrances of people who were victims of violent crimes. I also met a woman named Rose from Brooklyn. She came up to us to share her story. Her daughter, Chelsea Cabo, has been missing since 2015, and Rose told me her story and her plight for answers. In addition, retired LAPD Detective Moses Castillo joined me for a discussion about the psychology of online predators. He and I have worked together on several missing person cases. Most recently, we teamed up to help bring a teen from California back home safely after she became a victim of trafficking. Moses and I talked about the dangers of predators lurking online. Here's part of our conversation. First of all, thank you for being at CrimeCon. It's pretty overwhelming to be here because the reason that we're all coming together was, as I said to you, somebody's worst day. But that's where people like you come in and you meet these families who are going through a nightmare. What does it mean to you to be here to talk about the work that you're doing and how important it is?
Well, I think it's an amazing event that's showcasing just that, as you mentioned, people have gone through some very dark times, and we're learning from those experiences in hopes that we could get better at what we do to investigate these crimes, to solve them. Many families still have unanswered questions, missing loved ones, unsolved crimes, and CrimeCon brings that to the forefront to make sure that we don't forget these victims, because they're not just a number. There's a name attached to that case. They're a loved one, they're a son, a daughter, a nephew, grandson, whatever the case may be, a husband and a wife. And so for those reasons, this will give us a greater resolve to bring them a resolution to their case. Notice I said resolution and not closure, because there is no closure in these cases. It's just a resolution, and then you learn to live a life without your loved one.
And the question that we often get is, why isn't law enforcement doing more? I mean, you were a member of law enforcement for decades, and now you're on the side of advocating for victims in a different way. How would you answer that question to a family who says, nobody's listening, nobody's covering my case or helping me?
You know, I hear that a lot. I hear that many victims feel ignored and they just don't know what else to do. My advice is you just don't give up. You go be the most outspoken, fierce advocate for your loved one. Many victims' rights are out there. One of those rights is the right to meet and confer with the detectives and the prosecution team about your case. I hope that's the case in your state. I know in California that's called Marcy's Law, and there are many Marcy's Law victims' bill of rights throughout the country. So get familiar with those victims' rights and invoke them. And if one of those rights is that you have the right to meet and confer with your detectives and your prosecutors, you do that. You invoke those rights and have that meeting so that you could be heard, and let them know that you're not going away until they do something about your case.
Sometimes you got to be loud, but there are laws there to protect you. How prevalent is human sex trafficking right now in your eyes?
You know, when you hear the word human sex trafficking, many people think that this is a third world or foreign country issue or problem. It is not. It's happening in our own backyard here in the United States of America. and that is really sad. It's really a modern day slavery that's happening, where people are being forced to perform sexual acts, coerced, supposedly get paid, but then the money gets taken away from them and they only get a small percentage. And the pimp makes all the money, and then they make this into a commercial business. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry in our country, and that's a very sad commentary. I really hope that our state legislators across this nation take this a lot more serious, dedicate more resources, and make the punishment for these individuals so severe that they don't want to do this anymore.
The technology that has now become available at our fingertips has changed the scary reality of trafficking. How has AI and kids in their bedrooms playing games and on apps opened our eyes to the deep, dark world of predators?
You know, the internet has given these predators access to your own home through social media, through all these different applications that are out there. The one that comes to mind is OnlyFans page. The OnlyFans is a platform where many young teenagers are using it to flaunt themselves, show their bodies, nudes, videos, and make some money out in that format. And these pimps go on these platforms, and then they see them, and they're able to communicate through DMs on these platforms. And they'll reach out to them and say, hey, guess I see what you're doing. You're good. You're beautiful. You're probably making some good money, but I'll tell you what, I could help you make 10 times, 20 times, 30 times more money doing the exact same thing. Are you interested? And then, really? The exact same thing? I said, yeah. And then from there, they get hooked, they get trapped, and now they become exploited. So that's a sad reality. So it's important to talk to our teens, let them know that these dangers are real, they exist. And if you're not careful, you could end up in the world of human trafficking.
Even when they roll their eyes and we tell them about what we know, continue to have that conversation. Moses, I know that you work so closely with families and you meet them in the middle of their nightmare. How do you work through that with families and give them hope? And what message do you have to families who have someone who's missing and they believe they've been caught up in trafficking?
Well, you know, one of the things that I do personally, because I get often asked, how is it that I've been able to do this kind of work for so long? Even after I retired, I'm still doing very similar work. And that is because I actually have this routine every Sunday morning. When I go to church, I ask God to clean my heart and my soul into prayer. And there's this thing called worship. And during worship, I begin to pray for my victims. I pray for my victims that I've helped in the past. I pray for my victims that I'm currently helping. Then I pray for my victims that are coming in the future. And I say all that to say this, when I tell that to the family that I just met them, that I've been praying for them, even though I did not know them, and I kind of explain to them my routine, they begin to cry. And they say, oh my God, you're heaven sent. God sent you. You're my angel. And sometimes it's a huge burden for me to carry, because now it's giving them a sense of hope. And so I'm grateful that I do that, but I'm also realizing that sometimes I may not even be able to help them. But it's that opportunity that we give them, a little glimmer of hope, and then fight, and I help them navigate through their communications with law enforcement, or through the court process, or through the investigation process. That goes a long way, and I'm able to advocate for them and say to the police department, hey, this victim says you haven't been communicating, you're ignoring phone calls, emails, please reach out to them. And then once they see me come in, my background, they give it the attention it deserves. And that could be the beginning of solving that crime, whatever that crime may be.
You're their voice. Thank you, Moses, for being here. Thank you for all of the work that you continue to do. You're giving hope to not only the families, but to me as an investigative journalist and covering our missing cases. So thank you. And really do appreciate Moses and all his insight. 5,500 people attended CrimeCon this year in Nashville. Next year's event takes place in Denver, and you can bet NewsNation will make it a priority to be there. Tune in next week for the latest missing case, given some new developments recently in the disappearance of this little girl, Madalena Kojakari. She is from North Carolina. We told you at the beginning of our show about her case. She went missing around Thanksgiving 2022. She was 11 years old at the time, and some of her family members believe that she may have been human trafficked. The last image that we have of Madalena was this one. This is video of her getting off of her school bus a couple years ago. Her mom has pleaded guilty for failing to report Madalena missing, and her stepfather has now been charged and convicted of the same crime. There is no sign, however, of Madalena. We are in touch with authorities, and we are working to gather more details about this ongoing investigation, including what these new convictions mean for the search. So make sure you tune in next week for that. And if you have a missing case you think we should be looking into, you can send it to us at newsnationnow.com/missing. Many of the cases that we cover come from you. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I'm Marni Hughes in Chicago. I will see you back here next week for the latest missing case. Thank you for joining us. I'm Marni Hughes, and this is Missing. Each week, we cover missing person cases from across the country, and this month marks 3 years since the start of that mission. To date, we have featured more than 150 cases and seen some incredible outcomes, thanks to your help. Every missing person matters. This week's featured case is heartbreaking. A woman reached out to our team asking for help finding the love of her life. David Brown will turn 70 years old this Sunday, and his family wants him home to celebrate that milestone. Instead, they're wondering where he is.
I think he really got lost. The Florida wilderness is very non-forgiving.
David's wife, Amy, says that he went missing on a walk with his brother in Florida in early August, months after he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Coming up, Amy will be joining us with some new clues in his disappearance. First, some updates on other cases that we are covering. A lot of attention on this case online. This is what Dulce Alavez may look like today. This little girl from New Jersey would be about 10 years old now. Dulce vanished from a park in 2019 where she was playing with her little brother. Her mom was in a car nearby about 30 yards away. I spoke with a private investigator working with the family on this case who told me a sketch police put out then of a man they wanted to talk to, a Hispanic man with acne, about 5'8", between 30 and 35 years old, is still someone they are interested in hearing from now.
Yes, the person in the sketch is somebody we're very interested in speaking with. And if anybody out there watching this has information on somebody that looks like that gentleman, please, you can call it into us. You can call it into Bridgeton PD, but we need to talk to that gentleman.
This year alone, investigators have received nearly 24 new tips from all across the country. However, the investigator tells me he believes the answer to solving Dulce's disappearance lies much closer to home in that New Jersey community. We've had hundreds of thousands of clicks on our social media channels on this case, so let's hope we can crack it together and bring this little girl home. An incredible update on a missing case in Michigan. Check this out.
Central, K975, I've got her.
This is the moment a Michigan State trooper and his K9 found a missing 15-year-old in the woods. This trooper trekked 4 miles to locate this girl. She had run away days earlier. After finding her, he then invited her to pet the dog.
You want to say hi to him? Yeah. He's friendly. You can pet him. Just don't take his ball off.
What a moment, what a relief. Another positive outcome in Louisiana, a 10-year-old girl missing for 24 hours found safe in a dense wooded area. A drone spotted her laying on the ground in her pajamas. And then as police approached, they weren't sure if she was still alive, but as they got closer, you saw her move. Josh Klober, who owns the drone, describes that moment.
There was big wooded areas around, but I'm trying to think like a 10-year-old, you know, and I think she was walking down the road supposedly, and I didn't figure she'd get too far off of it, so I just wanted to kind of stay 30, 40 yards off the road.
Now she is back safe with her family. Now to this week's featured case. David Brown is a beloved husband who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer earlier this year. He went to Florida to visit his brother and was in search of a praying tree that he had seen on his brother's property before. But somewhere along the way, he got lost. His wife, Amy, reached out to us, desperate to find him and bring him home.
just a wonderful person, wonderful man, a wonderful husband, wonderful grandfather.
David and Amy Brown have been married more than a quarter century. They were building a new home together, realizing their dreams, planning for the rest of their lives, when David got word this year of a stage 4 cancer diagnosis.
He wanted to fight it, go through the chemotherapy, everything he had to do. He wanted to go see his brother. And so I took him down to Florida on the 12th and dropped him off. And then on 13th, I got the call that he was missing.
One of the things David wanted to do with his brother was to visit an oak tree on the family's 194-acre property. The tree had limbs that reached up to the heavens, and David and his brother had prayed there on a visit months before.
He and his brother went out and on the golf cart, and apparently there was a tree that had fallen across the trail. And so his brother Carl said, "Let me go back and get a piece of equipment. I'll move the tree off." David said in his state of mind, "Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to go see this tree with the dog."
The dog, Snoopy, was trained as a guardian protector. When he returned without David, Carl called the sheriff, and they began a search within hours.
We have had our helicopter up, our drones up all night long. We've had ground crews looking for Mr. Brown, ATVs and UTVs. We've had our patrol dogs trying to pick up a scent.
The Hernando County Sheriff's Office searched a 1.5-mile radius for 6 days before calling it off, classifying it as a missing persons case. That's when the nonprofit investigators We Are the Essentials stepped in, using canine dogs and searching on foot, and often on their hands and knees for 2 weeks in Florida's unforgiving terrain. David was caught on surveillance and trail cameras several times on the morning of August 13th.
He was seen on that trail cam with the dog. He's missing his glasses. The glasses, one of his shoes, and one of his socks was found in that location of that initial trail cam.
There was also a barbed wire fence nearby. Bloodhounds tracked David's movement there. It's believed he climbed under the fence, ripping his shirt. Investigators found dog hair caught in that barbed wire fence as well.
We actually took samples of that dog hair, and we were able to confirm that it was hair from the dog that he was actually with when he walked off.
David made his way off the family property and wandered over to a neighboring house. He stopped there looking for directions to the tree.
I think he really got lost. The Florida wilderness is very non-forgiving. The last camera video with the woman he talked to, he said, "I am lost." And he was truly lost.
There was a potential sighting of David the next morning as well, on a busy Spring Lake road about 2.5 miles from his brother's property. But the man who thinks he spotted David did not call it in for weeks.
It was 5 o'clock in the morning. He said, "The one thing that stood out to me was the back of his shirt was open," which is clearly how David's shirt was on the videos that he's seen on. He said he looked very disheveled and he thought he was homeless.
Amy is hoping that maybe he's lost somewhere in a homeless camp and someone will help him find his way back home.
I think he got a ride. I love him. He is a salesman and he can sell ice to an Eskimo. And so he may have convinced somebody to help him. When he went missing, he was definitely confused and not in his right mind. If David is alive, he is somewhere in a homeless encampment. I don't know. I'm just desperately asking for answers.
Joining me now is Amy Brown, David's wife, also the private investigator, Shelley Croft with We Are the Essentials. To both of you, thank you so much. Amy, I want to start with you, and I want to thank you for reaching out to us. When we started our Missing series, we went out seeking cases to cover, and over the course of the last 3 years, people like you have come to us. So thank you for trusting us to tell David's story, and I hope together we can bring him home. I think I'd like to start. You believe he could be in a homeless camp. He might have have been picked up. What is distinguishing about David that could help if somebody's watching on social media and they can help identify him?
When I last saw him, he had a short goatee, and his hair is gray. And then, of course, the clothes that he had on. I don't know if he would still have those on or not now. He has really bright blue eyes, and he has a lot of like distinguishing moles on his back, if somebody can see his back. But he's very friendly, and he loves to talk. So he will engage anyone he can in a conversation.
And does he have a Southern accent and anything else that he would say or do that would distinguish him?
Not really. And no, he doesn't have a Southern accent. He grew up his first part of his childhood in Pennsylvania, and the rest part of his childhood up until he went to college in Florida. So he doesn't sound like he's from the South at all.
Okay. And how much did he weigh at the time he disappeared, and how tall is he?
He weighed approximately 180 pounds because he had lost weight with the cancer, and he is approximately 5'11".
Okay. For you, Shelley, at what point did you get involved? And these searches are really interesting. So take me through the initial search and the expansion of the parameter of looking for David.
Anytime there's a missing person within the Central Florida area, or actually anywhere in the United States, that goes viral on social media, somebody's always tagging, "We are the Essentials," and we were tagged multiple times. And finally, we reached out and we spoke to his brother, Carl. But we did not get involved until after the Hernando County Sheriff's Office exhausted their efforts, and we came the very next day. And that was our intent. We didn't want to get involved with the sheriff's office because they were not that we didn't want to get involved with the sheriff's office, but I'm just saying, like, where they were searching at, they were only allowing volunteers to go on perimeters. There's a lot of private property. There's a lot of large acreage that people own. So we waited until they exhausted their efforts, and then we began ours. And the property that he went missing from is approximately 194 acres. It's very expansive and very unforgiving territory. There's wildlife, there's places that you cannot physically walk through. You have to actually get down on your hands and knees and crawl through some of these areas. And then there's other areas that are open.
So, Amy, what took David to this area specifically? Why did he want to go there? I know he was meeting with his brother for a visit. There was a tree that he wanted to go see. What was the history of that property, and why was it so important for him to be there?
So in June, he wanted to go to his brother's. He wanted to have a brother trip. They were picking up an antique truck and bringing it back to our home here in Georgia. And his brother Carl had been clearing this part of the acreage to build a house. And he showed David this tree in June and commented about how the arms, the limbs look like they're praying, and he saved the tree. And David had an emotional connection with that tree. So they both prayed at the tree about David's illness. So when I took him back in August, he asked his brother that morning if they could go see the tree. And because I'm sure he wanted to go and he wanted to pray at that tree about his cancer.
So tell me both, and Shelley, I'll point this question at you first. Searching that parameter, depending on where David may have been trying to go, what evidence did you all find that led you in any direction at all in understanding where he may have been given some of these sightings?
We did have a meeting with the Hernando County Sheriff's Office and their detectives, and they were wonderful and gave us as much information as far as the canine track. We had some homeowners in the area that allowed us and saw during the search these canine units going to the back of the property, which also butts up to his brother's property. And that's where the hair was located on the fence. So we do believe that obviously the dog went through that fence line there because there's barbed wire fence that separates all the properties. Unfortunately, we don't know if David was with the dog during that time. So we can only concentrate our efforts where we know for a fact that he was. So we started in that area and then expanded from there because we know that he was looking for this particular tree. And the last lady that he spoke with, he actually said to her that he's looking for this tree. And she pointed him towards the blueberry farm. And we believe that maybe he had tried to go towards that direction, but he truly did not have any idea where he was.
And Amy, that makes me wonder, had he ever, you mentioned he was out of sorts that day and maybe still is, had there been any concerns prior to that where he had been confused or unaware of where he was?
Not unaware of where he was, because he's always, when he's gotten emotionally sick like this, he's always been with me or in a familiar place. So never not knowing who he was or where he was. So no, never any of those concerns. This was a first time for that. And I don't believe he didn't know who he was, but he was definitely turned around and lost.
He was lost.
Because I don't think he would have said to the lady, "I'm lost," if he truly wasn't lost.
What about his brother who was with him prior to him vanishing? What did he say about his mental state of mind?
David was confused. He suffers from bipolar disorder, and he had taken himself off of his medication when he found out he had cancer. I was not aware of this. And so I started to see some signs of that manic state coming on. And that's when I decided to maybe taking him to see his brother, we could hit a reset button, because he was clearly under a lot of stress, being at home, trying to finish a home that we were building, and, dealing with the cancer.
So much going on in his life. It's a stressful time, so he's dealing with all of that. Shelley, how close are we to populated areas around where David was last seen on this property? It seems like it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but if he were to catch a ride, where would be some of the closest places that you all are looking?
Well, the last potential sighting is several miles away from where we know he was at. And he was seen potentially on the corner of Powell and Spring Lake Road. The day after, or maybe 2 days after he disappeared, we've had no one else come forward that said that they saw him in that area. We have searched in areas around that area. We've spoken with businesses in the area, tried to obtain video cameras. And that's one thing that we've asked is check your dash cams, check your home surveillance cameras. People have in that area, because it is so rural, many people have trail cams. So we've asked, please check your trail cams, check your dash cams. Did you encounter anyone? Do you remember seeing anyone? And the gentleman that did contact us doesn't have social media. He was actually on his wife's social media when he saw the report about David missing. So we're just begging, do you remember seeing a gentleman like this? And as you see in this video, he's walking along and he's following the dog, but somehow him and the dog get separated at some point in time.
Yeah, and you're hoping just one clue can lead you in the right direction. Amy, did he have a cell phone? When was the last time that you two had spoken?
We had spoken the day before when I dropped him off. I had tried to send him a text that night, but he never responded. I assumed that maybe he was asleep, but he did not have anything on him when he went on his walk, except the only thing that he had that he didn't have in the video was his shoes and his glasses. So he had left behind all of his ID, all of his credit cards, cash, insurance cards. So he didn't have anything with him.
So he essentially has nothing but the torn shirt on his back when he went missing. Both of you, walk me through, just for people at home, the timeline. So the last known location of David when he had those conversations with people when he was lost. What day was that?
August the 13th. Sorry.
August the 13th. And prior to that, what was the day he was on his way to the tree?
The same day, August the 13th, was the same day that we know confirmed that he was last seen.
Okay.
By video, the homeowner. And if someone does encounter David, based on the video from the homeowner, her surveillance video picked him up, and we have a copy of that. And for someone who doesn't know David, like we've never met David, he sounds very normal. But for his family, he's a very polite, very well-spoken. Somebody may not know that he needs help. So they may just encounter this super nice guy and not think anything about it other than his clothing.
And he may not ask for help. So, Amy, if somehow this lands in front of David on social media, wherever he is, what would you want to say to him or to anybody to be on the lookout for your husband? I know your heart is just breaking right now.
If it was David to see this, I would just want to say, I love you, I miss you, and I want you to come home. I want to help take care of you through this hard time in your life. Anybody else that sees him, just, please help me find him. If you gave him a ride or if you saw him and you didn't say anything, that's okay. I understand. Just if you could come forward now, I would just be so greatly appreciative.
Yeah, it's the unknown, right? And Shelley, I know you cover a lot of these cases and you're looking from clue to clue where it leads you. Everything's on the table. At this point, is foul play expected?
It does not appear that way. No, ma'am.
Well, that's good news. Amy Brown, Shelley Croft, thank you for partnering with us. I sure hope that we can spread the word far and wide, that somebody sees David and that he comes home soon. We'll make sure to stay in touch with both of you throughout this search. And thank you again for reaching out to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our best. If you have any information that can help in the ongoing search for David Brown, here he is again. He might have more facial hair now than he does in this picture and has probably lost weight. The last time he was seen was that torn shirt. The Hernando County Sheriff's Office would like to hear from you. They were part of the initial investigation. 352-754-6830. Let's bring this man home to his family that loves and misses him. Next week in our missing series, the disappearance of Tyler Weathersby. Tyler reportedly went for a walk on September 4th in northwest Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and has not returned since. He left without his wallet. He left without his cell phone. Tyler's wife, Mona Lisa, tells Dakota News that her husband was stressed, but believes he is alive and he needs help. The couple has 3 children. Make sure you join us for the latest on his disappearance and case next week. And if you have a missing person case you think we should look into, scan the QR code on your screen and let us know. Many of the cases we cover come from you. Also, make sure to check out our 1-hour missing special on newsnationnow.com. We highlight some of the biggest unsolved cases in our missing series and showcase some of the cases that you have helped us solve. Joe Petito also joins us. His daughter Gabby's disappearance and tragic death is the reason we started this series, dedicated to covering missing people of all races and backgrounds. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I'm Marni Hughes in Chicago, and this is Missing. I'll see you next week.